Hello everybody, once again, welcome back to another Knowing Your Skills video. In episode 13, we'll talk about two skills that many have been waiting for. First, we'll talk about Steal Magic from the Majesty class. We will share with you some of the buffs that Steal Magic can and cannot steal, the mechanics behind knowing which buff is stolen if there's more than one buff on the opponent, and discussion on the downsides of Steal Magic. Next, we will have Shock of Relic from the Saint class. We will share with you the basic knowledge you need to know about the skill with regards to its damage and range, as well as other useful stuff as always, including a short and simple PvP combo. Let's first take a look at Steal Magic skill description. Basically, Steal Magic is able to copy one buff from your opponent, but you cannot copy buffs that have weapon restrictions like block and parrying stunts. The reason why we say copy and not steal is because even after casting the skill, your opponent's buff will remain and will not be removed. Notable buffs you can steal using Steal Magic are Spirit Boost, Beyond Time, Iron Skin, Miracle Relic damage reduction buff, and many others as well. Let's see a few examples of what we have mentioned. You would have realized that we haven't touched on the duration of the copied buff using Steal Magic yet. There's a myth that the duration of the copied buff will be the duration of the buff when it was copied. This is untrue. Regardless of when you copy the buff, as long as you have successfully cast the skill, the buff will last only for 10 seconds. This also means that if you copy a buff that is longer than 10 seconds, you will only enjoy the buff for 10 seconds. But if you copy the buff with 1 second left on the target, you will still enjoy 10 seconds of the buff that you have just copied. So what happens when there's more than one buff on a target? The buff which is higher in the skill tree will be copied. For instance, where Iron Will and Divine Punishment buffs are on the Paladin, Divine Punishment which is higher on the skill tree will be copied instead of Iron Will regardless of what is cast first. Similarly, between the basic class skill trees, the second drop and third drop skill trees, skills from the basic class tree will take precedence over second drop skills, and second drop skills will take precedence over third drop skill buffs when Steal Magic is involved. Last but not the least, in the case where buffs like Highlander and Aura Restoration, which are both level 35 basic class skills, are stacked together, the one with the longer cooldown will be copied instead, and in this case it will be Highlander. This priority sequence mechanism is extremely important, because many assume that the buff copied is always the one on the leftmost of the target, which is not true. So when is this useful, you might ask? In 1v1 PvP when facing a mercenary in ladder, for example, since Battle Howl buff will be available before Iron Skin buff, many felt that this buff will prevent Iron Skin from being copied. But Iron Skin is higher in the skill share of Mercenary class compared to Battle Howl, which meant that Iron Skin will be copied when using Steal Magic even with the Battle Howl buff on. So what about Empowering Howl? Well, Empowering Howl is on the same level on the skill tree, but it has high cooldown compared to Battle Howl. This meant that Empowering Howl will also be given priority to be copied instead of Battle Howl during PvP. I know many skeptics will still think that this is a useless skill due to its long casting time. However, I believe this is compensated with the AoE casting range of Steal Magic, which is not too bad. Check out 2 videos of the range of Steal Magic that we have tested. Well, sadly when asking Starkey myself, he said that Steal Magic in general is really not worth the risk in using. It is easily cancelled, and if you cast it in conjunction with Time Stop, you will rather use the opportunity to do damage instead. Some say that Steel Magic is a group PvP buff, but how are you ever going to find out or remember the sequences of buffs when there's a large group of PvP players with all sorts of different classes, and more importantly, even when stealing a Beyond Time buff, it only applies to yourself and for 10 seconds. An improvement should be made to the skill where you can really steal a buff, meaning removing it from the target itself, and that will definitely be awesome. Nevertheless, Steel Magic is actually pretty useful in PvE for dungeons like Chaos Opening, where you can actually steal the Spirit Boost buff of the Acrobat hero at the final stage, for example. I have not tested other PvE situations, but that is definitely worth exploring. Well, that's all for Steel Magic from me, and let's move on to Shock of Relic from the same class. Shock of Relic is basically a skill that allows you to emit light elemental based damage off your relics. All relics can trigger this skill regardless if it's an offensive or defensive relic, meaning you can trigger it off healing relic or cure relic as well, not just with lightning relics. You can only trigger this skill off your own relics. Trying to use it off other priest relics will not work. Let's check out and see how much damage this skill can do. I know exactly what you're feeling, like meh, 4,300 damage only and it's a third drop skill? Compared to Inquisitors with Consecration, this is so unfair. But before you continue lamenting, do you know that it is 4.3k damage per relic that is within range of Shock of Relic? Wait, what? Don't worry, we always have proof. You can even go up to 4 relics and even more if you have Beyond Time buff. This gives you a chance to do a potential damage of up to 15,000 with 3 relics and close to 20,000 with 4 relics. With the skill ring and cure relic buff, you are definitely looking into some badass damage in both PvE, 1v1 PvP as well as group PvP. However, bear in mind that the target must be within a certain radius of the relics for the skill to hit. Here's a video to show you the maximum range possible. The range is around 4 meters, which is not far nor is it extremely short, but be familiar with this distance if you are a saint. With that, we will show you 2 simple combos that you can do in PvP, one with 2 relics and the other with 4 relics. And that's all for episode 13 of Knowing Your Skills this week. I hope the wait for Shock of Relic and Steel Magic was worthwhile. Special thanks to Starkey, Kyame, White Bear, Tatsumi, Yoga and Timelord in the making of Steel Magic part. Akuales, Shane, Aaron and Bunz for helping out in the making of Shock of Relic. Leave behind in the comments to let me know what are the next 2 skills you guys and girls want to see next. Remember to give this video a thumbs up and share it with your fellow Dragoness players and friends if you learned something and enjoyed it. Check out last week's Knowing Your Skills video featuring the new skill for Sword Master, also known as Brave if you haven't. Thanks for watching once again, God bless, and I'll see you guys and girls next week. Goodbye.